Welcome everybody to the Real Dealz podcast, one of the top-ranked real estate investing podcasts for the last 7 years. This is the place to be for investing strategies you can actually use, expert interviews, and of course, some good old-fashioned entertainment. Now, here's your host for the show, Elliot, the REI guy, Smith.
What's going on, Deal Finders? Coming at you this week with show 403. So this week's show is a little bit different. I did a training for a group of about, I think the total group is about 90 agents. They listened to it on Zoom, and some of them were in office as well. So we did the training on marketing, how do you stand out and how do you beat the competition, negotiation and dealing with sellers, and what do you do with sellers and how do you work with them, and then being the authority, frame control, and working with difficult people and how you have to adjust in that situation. We had some agents that actually were giving us feedback and asking questions. So it was really good because we got into some very specific situations that I was able to talk through them. Not saying I'm right all the time, but it was just my viewpoint of how I would handle those people. We also talked about specializing. One of the examples was one lady that was really going after lawyers and doctors and tech people, and another guy that was working with first-time home buyers. Very different type of people that you're working with, but how do you build your sphere in that kind of group? And we talked about ways that you can grow that. So a lot of these things actually work really well, not just for agents, but for your real estate business as well. So basically, are you in a volume market where you're going to do 100 wholesales a year? Or are you in a lower volume, higher margin area? So if you're in an area you can do both, which area do you want to focus in? I like being like Tucker, where I'm not doing as much volume, but doing higher margin deals. And I really like that sphere. But I have other friends that want to do a lot of deals, build a big team, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. So we dive into a bunch of stuff. And so don't think just because it's real estate agents, this is actually a brokerage that was an investment-minded brokerage. They have a lot of investor clients. And so this can be spread across not only agents, but basically this whole real estate industry as well. So there's so many different avenues you can take. But the one thing is we're in the marketing business. We're marketing for people. We're not in the real estate business. So how do you work and build your skills to do that? And then once you get very focused, how do you grow that marketing to be even better and crush everybody? Because times are changing. So what's going on with us this week? We got a refi done on a 24 unit. Pretty excited about that. Didn't get as much money back as we would like, but we locked in a 3.875 loan with Freddie Mac, 30-year AM, 10-year term, fixed term, and then it floats for the next 10 years. And we had 2 years of interest only. So very excited because that same loan would cost us probably 5.5% right now. So we got in right under the wire. So hope you guys enjoy this week's show. I'm going to keep it brief because this was a very long episode. It's almost 2 hours. Break it up into pieces. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Don't have to listen to it all at once, but I would love some feedback on this one because I was doing a training. I wasn't getting paid for it. Sometimes I think I know a lot because I study a lot of things, but let me know if there's anything that you think that you've seen work differently in scenarios that we talk about or things that I could get better at as well. So, also on the training side of it, how could I have done it better? I'm always looking to grow and figure out how I can be a better presenter, how I can be a better podcast host, how can I just grow you guys as well? If I get better and I get better at delivering information, I get you guys benefit from that because you get to hear a lot more and it's more valuable time spent when you're listening to me. So hope you guys have a great weekend. The sun's finally out and I think it's going to be great weather. So I'm excited for that as well. So here's a quick word from our sponsor. Talk to you soon.
All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I've personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did.
All right, so today we are going to go over different things, but we're going to go from start to finish. Marketing is the key to this business. We are not in the real estate business. I always say I am in the marketing business, and I am marketing for people. So how do we market for people, right? Every type of good marketing targets somebody specific. So if you look at a Nike ad or you look at a Coca-Cola ad, which everybody knows who Nike or Coca-Cola is, right? However, when they advertise, what do they advertise? They advertise a feeling that you're going to have using their product, right? You're going to be happier, better, faster, stronger in Nike shoes. If you're a woman running, you're going to be able to run longer, farther, and be blissfully happy while you're running. I don't know who would ever be happy running, but you're going to be happier running in their shoes and their leggings and things like that, right? So marketing is about creating a feeling and creating a connection. And then also having people remember they don't need to continue marketing, but they do. You see them all over, right? You see Nike, Coca-Cola ads all the time. Why do they spend money on Super Bowl ads? People know who Coca-Cola is. It's because they want to always stay in the front of your mind, right? That's what big brands do. Then you have different types of brands, right? You have entry-level brands. You have, let's say for the clothing industry, let's say you have like a Champion, or you have something that maybe I perceive as lower cost or lower product, even though it's probably the same as the Nike. They're probably made in the same exact factory as the Nike sweatpants. I still perceive them as lower. Same with Lululemon, right? Above Nike. I think Lululemon is better than Nike. They're still probably made in the same factory. Then you have higher levels like Gucci, Prada, things like that. If you look at the sunglass industry, which is the same fashion, the sunglass industry is owned by like one company that owns like 90% of these brands. They're all created in the same spot. Oakley, Gucci, all these high-end stuff. They're all the same glasses. They just stamp a different logo on them. So they're not more valuable. They're only more valuable because of the brand that you create behind them. But they target specifically that type of person. So if we're in real estate, we need to build our brand is very important. We need to continue touching people, getting in front of them, and building and showing them our value. Because again, we are collecting people. And so how do we do that? Well, first off, we need to figure out what is the person we want to collect, right? So if Nike doesn't have an ad in there, on the TV with a 400-pound fat guy sitting on the couch eating Cheetos, right? Because that's not who they're targeting. They're targeting somebody that wants to get in shape, work out, that's trying to better their life, right? Coca-Cola, they don't show all the people that are drinking Diet Cokes that probably, not really diet, but you're seeing that they're drinking 15 of them a day. They don't put those people in their ad, right? They're saying you can be happy, healthy, stronger. So who is our avatar, right? So there's different avatars in this industry. There's different types of segments, right? There's entry-level buyers. So millennials, just graduated, just got married. They're trying to buy an entry-level house, right? That's first level. Then you have step up. So like my wife and I would be considered a step up house buyer. We have, a son. We might have another kid. We need a little bit bigger house, a little bit more space. And then you have the people that maybe are your Amazon and Google that are, working professionals that make higher incomes that are going to be a little bit higher price point. And they probably want to be keeping up with the Joneses a little bit, right? They want to be in that flashy lifestyle. They're driving fancy cars. And they're probably living, a lot of them are probably living paycheck to paycheck. I have a lot of buddies that know guys that earn $1 million a year that probably spend $1.1 million. And it's not on investing, right? So there's that person. And then there's the people that are buying putting 50% down on their house, right? You have, and I'm not trying to stereotype people in any way, but like I have a buddy that's a builder in Kirkland that builds high-end spec homes. A lot of the Asians and the Indians come in with 50% down. A lot of these people are coming in with a lot of money down on these properties, right? They're just different types of buyers, right? Then you have your sellers that are selling on the other side. So you have people that are selling from all those segments, and then you have the people that have lived in their home for a while that are maybe having a life event that they need to go to a retirement center or they need to downsize and things like that. Then you have your investors, right? And you have different types of investors. So there's multiple different types of people in this market segment, right, that you can go after. Now, where most people struggle is they just go after whatever blows to them. I think that might have been one of the questions that was over the double booked one, but it was basically, do you just let people, did you just wait for people to come to you and say, okay, one time I'm going to do a buyer, I'm going to do this buyer, and then I'm going to do this agent listing, or I'm going to list something in Lakewood, and then I'm going to go list something in Tacoma, or then I'm going to try to go to Bellevue and try to do all these things, or are you market specific? Some of the best agents that I know and the best investors that I know, they are very hyper focused, right? So I'm going to use Greg Lynch a lot in this talk. In Kirkland, he's Enfort Homes. They have grown exponentially, if anybody knows who they are. What's that, Zach? You're muted, Zach.
He's a Caliber agent.
Caliber, yep, Caliber guy. But they started out doing fix and flips, and then they started doing higher end fix and flips, and then they went into new construction. They focus on 2 zip codes, and they have a lot of things in their pipeline, right? And so they understand that very well. They understand zoning codes. They dive into it. They know the people at the planning department. They know everything about that. But they're not trying to build in Bellevue. They're not trying to build in Redmond. They're not trying to build in all these different things because they're hyper-focused and they're growing exponentially because of that. Another gentleman, Tucker Merrihew, who I took this podcast over from, he's in 1 zip code, and he probably only markets for his new builds to probably 300, maybe less than 300 people. And that guy builds 5 to 6 homes a year, beautiful, and just crushes it, right? Different people. Tucker was more, they want to be more hands-on, more into the product themselves, and they build a beautiful product, and then they make really good money, but they're very hyper-focused on marketing for the dirt and marketing for people. Greg is maybe paying a little bit closer to retail for his dirt, but he needs more dirt because he wants to build more homes, right? One is not better than the other. It's all your personal preference. So do you want to be a volume agent or do you want to be a highly specialized agent? So that's one of the questions you would ask yourself. Specialized, I think, is a lot better. For me, I think it's, people always want to say, hey, I sold 100 homes this year. I did 100 transactions. That's how people tend to measure their level of success, or I flipped 100 homes, right? You have guys like James Daynard that flip hundreds and hundreds of homes. But if you follow him on Instagram, where does he make the most money? He makes the most money on their very high-end specialty stuff that takes a while, highly targeted stuff. I bet I would rather say I made $10 million than I did 100 homes. And I'd rather say I made $10 million doing 10 properties than I did doing 100 properties. This seems a lot easier to me, right? So how do we be specialized? So there's 2 different types of marketing. Again, 100 homes versus 10 homes doesn't matter. They come with their own challenges. Both are, 10 homes, you have to be like a concierge, very, very diligent and just be in the weeds all the day. And there's a lot of things that you have to specialize there. So it's not easier. 100 homes, you're just moving stuff through there. You just have to build a conveyor belt of like, how do I touch people? How do I have this? So you have a, assistant, you have somebody that does the paperwork, you have a buyer's agent, a listing agent, you have this team, right? Just different teams. Again, one's not better or worse. So in this, there's 2 different ways that you can look at marketing. So you can go from the machine gun approach, which would be considered like my cold calling would be machine gun approach. We're pulling lists of 40, 50, 100,000 people. We literally have every property probably database of like phone numbers in King, Pierce, and Snohomish County in our system. But we're calling 1,000 people a day per caller. Cole Rue Johnson has probably 15 to 20 callers going at any given time in Seattle, in those counties. So that's going to be your machine gun marketing. So you're just spraying out to see what comes in, right? You're going to get people that you're going to talk to that first day. You're going to have people that you can have conversations with, but they're not going to probably be motivated because you're calling them before they've made a decision. And so you're going to have to work them and take time building that relationship for when they are ready. So it takes less work to get to people to talk to on the front end, but it takes more work to get them ready to sign on the dotted line and to use you. Then the next one would be text messaging. Then the next one would be, so that's text blast, like a bunch of text messages. Postcards would be another one. Would be the next step down. And we're going to go all the way down to sniper marketing. The next one would be postcards. Then you would send letters, like bulk letters. And then you would say you can do more specialty letters. Then I go into handwritten letters. Then I go handwritten, like with stuffer in there. I'm not allowed to tell people what we put in there. Tucker won't let me. But so we put something in there. And those are all handwritten I'll send offers to people with a live cashier's check, stamp voided on there, but I'll go pull it from my bank. And for properties I want to buy, FedEx, they have to sign for it. Here's an offer. Here's a cashier's check made out to them that's voided, of course, but I want to pay this much for your property. Here's my proof of funds in your hand with a cashier's check. I've actually filed probate on properties, became the personal representative, sold the property to my company after the probate, during the whole probate process. But those are like your vacant, deceased, you can't find anybody. So that's very sniper targeted. I like to live just above sniper, that high-end sniper, where I build what I call my Normans. Those are my avatars. Norman's my avatar. That's for the multifamily stuff right now, but we're building our marketing plan out with Greg, and I'm like, dude, that looks like a Norman. And it just kind of stuck, right? Because Norman is 60 to 80 years old. He has owned the property, a $2 to $12 million multifamily property. He's owned it for probably 15 to 20 years plus. He has little to no debt on it. Even if he pulled out a recent loan, he probably pulled $100,000 to $500,000 out just to pay for something. He wanted to buy something, but his loan to value is really good. Norman has gone over there and managed all the tenants himself for the last 15 to 20 years. He's done most of the work himself, and the rents are probably low, but he has a very good relationship with his tenants because he's over there all the time. Norman has kids that do not want the property because they grew up seeing their dad go and take care of the property on nights, weekends, and all the time. And they got probably hauled off to the property to go do work on it. So they want nothing to do with this property because they see it as, especially us millennials, they see it as like, I don't want to do all that work like my dad did. I just want the money, right? So they see that as a lot of hard work. So that is very specific for my avatar, right? And so the whole question I have is, how do I go be friends with 50 Normans? That's the question. And what you didn't hear me say is, how do I go buy properties from 50 Normans? How do I go become friends with 50 Normans? Because if I can become friends with 50 Normans, they are going to want to see me succeed, right? Just as how my first mentors wanted to see me succeed, just how I have kids, people that I mentor underneath me, I want to see them succeed. So I'm going to do a lot more for them and not going to charge them full price for things. I don't even charge people for a lot of stuff if they're doing the work and they're putting the effort in. They just want to see somebody that has the same passion and the same drive as them to then take care of this. Because you have to remember, Norman has been at this property for 15 to 20 years on nights and weekends with his tenants, building relationships. He wants to make sure that those people are going to be taken care of fairly. They knows that he's probably under rent. He's okay that you got to move people out, but are you going to do it in a nice, good manner? Or are you just some big company that's going to kick everybody out, say, get the hell out of here, and I'm going to jack rents up 10x? Or are you going to give people an opportunity to stay at maybe a reduced rent from where the market value is? So do you care about them, right? That is very important. So that's my avatar when I'm talking about this. So question is, who are you and who do you want to be? Now, a lot of people will say that you need to start at a certain spot in this and you have to work with buyers and you have to go all up this ladder, right? To a certain extent, you have to learn real estate. Like when I first started doing real estate, I didn't know anything about it. My dad did flip some houses on and off growing up, but like I didn't know anything about it. We had couple of rentals. I knew some about construction, but I didn't know like what the values were or anything. We were in Vancouver, so the first deal we wholesaled, I was working for Franz at the time, and I was working 70 plus hours a week, then working on the 30 hours a week on the side after Franz. And I was going to bed because I had to get up early to run a route. And it was about 6 o'clock at night. I was already asleep. This lady called me off one of our first mail campaigns. And if you want to laugh, I wish I could find the first mail campaign because we would all probably laugh at what I said on there. But she called me and said, hey, I have this duplex. I'd sell it for $120. And I'm, okay, great. I'll call you back later, blah, blah, blah. I'm laying there and I kind of wake up and I'm like, wait a second, 120, that's a good deal. Now, this is 2015. So I call this guy I met on Bigger Pockets and say, hey, this lady called me and said she wants to sell her duplex for 120. Like, what do you think? He's like, try to tie it up for 115. So I go over there, not knowing anything. Sure enough, I tied it up for 115. Now, this lady was a realtor, by the way. She owned some rentals, but she was like a 75-year-old realtor. tie it up, and this guy's like, okay, we'll buy it and we'll flip it. And I'm like, he started making all these things sound weird, like how they're gonna finance things, and I didn't know shit. So what he said is, how about I just give you $5,000 and then I'll buy it and take it from him. I'm like, $5,000 is fantastic. You know, I work 70 hours a week to make $5,000 a month. And so he did. Well, after he bought it, he never went to the property, resold it for $165. So he paid like $120, resold it without doing anything for $165 like 2 weeks later. So I'm like, shoot. But I didn't know, right? But here's the thing. A lot of people would get jealous or envious that he made more money. But I knew like $5,000 was great. That was a cost of tuition, right? You have to pay for tuition and learn this industry really well. And that's why I put the question in there. Do you spend time studying the market, industry, and local economics on a micro level, right? Do you understand this? Are you studying the market? So then the next one, we did another one the next month. We made $8,800. We did 12 that first year. But what I started figuring out, I had one buyer because I needed everything to be very easy. He started telling me things like, I can't finish out this basement. I can't do this, trying to get my price lower. And I'm like, I think this guy's screwing me, but I don't know. So what did I do? I went and hired an inspector to go with me after I tied up the property. And I said, hey, sellers, you know, this is for my own information. We're not documenting anything. And I had him take me through the property of multiple times and say, hey, can we build out this basement? What is my issues? Where's my cost? Like, is there anything big here? Because I needed to have ammunition to go back to my buyer and say no. Then that's how I kind of got going on it. And then I also found people that I just asked a bunch of questions to that were doing or have done what I want to do. And so you can't go to like something that's 10 levels above you, but you can go to something that's 2 or 3 levels above you and say, hey, can I do something for you? Can I take your, pick up your dry cleaning? Can I, take your car to get washed? Can I do things that are like of service because I know you're really busy? Free. I just want to learn. I just want to learn from you. I have done that every step of the way that we've moved up in this industry. Every step of the way, and it works without fail. And I'll give you an example. The first mentor I had, he owns over 100 rentals in Portland, free and clear. I got introduced to him by a guy that I worked with. They grew up together. We met, and the first thing he told me, he said, never ask me for money, I'll never give you a dime. I'm like, okay. But what I found out what he needed was he didn't want to buy any more real estate really. He's doing little things. But he loved hearing about the deal. What real estate person doesn't love hearing about a good deal, right? How did I talk to this person? How did I close them? How did I do these things? So he loved those deals. 8 months in, he said, hey, Elliot, you're giving too many good deals away. I'll give you $300,000. I'll take 25%. I'll pay for everything. And you go flip some of these houses because you're giving too much money away. So I added value to him. Then he brought value to me. We wanted to get into development. I had a piece of dirt tied up. I could have easily put 4 houses. I put 4 lots on there. I could have done it. I could have figured it out myself, no problem. There's a developer in town in Tri-Cities that I wanted to build a relationship with. I called him and said, hey, I have this lot, 5 acres. We can put 4 houses. I'll do everything. Just tell me what I need to do, and I'll give you half the deal. We bought the deal, and I get a lot from him. I literally have gone and picked up this guy's car and taken it to the mechanic. I have a saying that I would literally, if there's guys I want to learn from, I would literally go wipe dog poop off their shoes to learn from them. And you have to have that mindset of they have what you want. You want to be like them. How do I add value and be humble about it? Because if people ask me all the time, Elliot, like they ask me to straight specific questions like, hey, how do I do this? What should I do here? All this stuff. I'm like, can I go to lunch with you? No, I don't want to go to lunch with you. I can buy my own lunch. I just don't have time. But if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I really listened to your podcast. I've been studying it. I was wondering what you said about here. I'm going to want to talk to them because they're actually they're doing something to find the information themselves. People are so quick to say, hey, I want it right now without putting in the effort, right? And so that's the biggest thing I see in investors and agents of why they fail. They might have some success when the market's booming and really good and easy, but if they aren't like trying to learn and build relationships every single day, when things get hard and times get tough, they're going to be the ones that fall off. You see it every time. So, do I have an avatar? And then do you study the market? So let's talk about what we need to study in the market. So Seattle, Kirkland, Bellevue, all those markets, yes, you can say it's this King County area, but they are so specific, right? Zach, there's areas probably, I'm guessing, Zach, that if you have a house on one side of the street and then could sell for $1 million, but on the other side of the street, it could sell for $800,000 because a different school district or something different. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely.
So
Weston Market, Kirkland, and Kingsgate are two very different areas, but still Kirkland addresses.
Correct. So if you go into that market and you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know Weston Market. I know Weston Market. Greg's told me about Weston Market. And you say, oh, this house a block away sold for $1.5 million, and you tell your sellers you can get $1.5 million, then and you can't because it really should sell for $1.1 million because it's Weston Market or Easton Market, right? You look dumb. And then all of a sudden that goes out there to the world and people are like, this agent's not very good. He didn't know what he was doing. You know, everything you do and touch is marketing. Every person you talk to is marketing. So do you know the market? So can you give people specifics? Okay. Can you talk to people and say, I know this many houses have sold here. Some people say they don't like to hear the granular details, but if you start talking with some granular details about just the market in general, it might go right over their head, but they're going to say, oh man, this guy's got it. This guy, like, no doubt in my mind, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like they might turn their head off, but they trust you. So understanding your market and being hyper focused on what's going on is very important. Now, do you study the industry? What's going on in the industry? What was the biggest factor that just is going on right now that is going to be very challenging in the next 8 to 10 months in Seattle, Kirkland, Bellevue? What's the issue going on right now? Does anyone know?
We just talked about it. What's a factor that just affected our market?
What's the factor that's going to crush inventory for new home inventory?
Interest rates?
Nope.
No, I didn't think it was. He said specifically.
Crush new home inventory.
Oh, just a simple material permits?
What?
Material permits?
Nope. Who's on strike? Who's on strike right now?
Oh,
Concrete.
Yeah.
What do you need for building everything?
Yeah, concrete. Aren't they working it out though? I think they're off. I think they just came back.
Yeah, 6 months though. 6 months you're not getting concrete, right? So if you were, you're getting scab drivers at 4 or 5x the cost, right? So that's one huge factor. Now, more than anything else, the lumber prices, any of these other, any of the other supply chain issues, if you can't put concrete in the ground, there's not like you can go find a different light fixture. You can't. I mean, you just can't do it, right? So, or lumber's not. This lumber's too expensive, or where you can't get it. You can't go buy other kind of lumber because you're using the same lumber. Concrete, you have to have. So, what is that going to do to inventories in the new home market, right? That's going to be very difficult. It's also going to increase the prices. So, somebody brought up interest rates. Interest rates, and this is where I think this is all my opinion, by the way, on these things. So I think I'm right a lot of the times, but sometimes I'm wrong. So I could be right or wrong. Interest rates, everybody wants to say the market won't change because there's no inventory or this or that, right? That's the saying that I've heard for everybody. They hear that there's 5 or 6 million housing units short on a national scale. There's no inventory, supply chain issues, blah, blah, blah. Now, where I think that is correct in a lot of the Seattle, Kirkland, or the Kirkland, Bellevue markets, and I think interest rates are going to have an effect, that's what everybody is saying. And, if you read and go back to 2008, I've listened to a couple books and read a bunch of books on 2008. A really good one that I just read was The Greatest Trade of All Time or something like that. And it was about John Paulson, who actually made the most money on the Wall Street crash, when the housing market crashed, $4 billion personally he made. In that book, as he was doing this and trying to bet against it, he wasn't a housing expert, but people kept telling him, you're wrong. 2005, you're wrong. 2006, you're wrong. Couldn't raise money for his fund. 2006, you're wrong. 2007, you're wrong. 2008, things started going down. People are like, I don't know, but his position started going up. And you know what people are telling him? Sell out. The housing market won't crash. Sell out, take your profit, sell it out. That's what everybody was saying. He held on, he made $4 billion, right? Because he trusted his conviction. If 90% of the people are saying this one thing, I want to figure out what the 10% are saying, if that makes sense. So how do we look at those things from that factor? So everybody says, oh, mortgages are strong, everything's good right now, but there's going to be something that's going to change. So in my opinion, what's going to change is I don't think we're going to see a crash. One, Amazon just doubled their salaries, things like that. 80% of people have a home mortgage have a mortgage under 4%. Most people, unless they bought their home yesterday, probably have good equity. Even if the market was to dip 10, 15%, they probably have equity in that market. If people have 80% of the mortgages are under 4%, why would anybody sell their house to go buy a house with a 5.5% mortgage? What would be some events that would cause people what would be some reasons that people would sell their house in that instance?
Moving out of state, moving,
What's that? Any other?
job change.
Yeah, life events, right? Life events. So a life event, older person going to a retirement center, older person dies. They're moving out of state. They're forced to move, right? Because if you do the math, especially in your guys' crazy expensive market, from 3% to 5.25%, your buying power is a lot less. And if we talk about what we talked about earlier with the people making $1 million and spending $1.1 million, most people are living at their level of income. That's just how it is. Most people live, which you shouldn't. You should be well below your level of income. We live in a $300,000 house and our cars are paid for. And, there's a lot to be said to invest in the future, not living well below your means. Now, we'll have fun. We travel and do things. But if we spent all our money that we made every month, we couldn't be buying these apartments, right? So, but most people make $300,000 a year. They spend $300,000 a year. Also, those same people that are making $300,000 a year pay probably 150 of that in taxes. So they can't go and move from entry level to step up to the next level, right? Unless something happens. So that's going to decompress inventory. Now you have the concrete that's going to compress inventory. You have the shortages that are going to compress inventory. You have the expensive land. You have the cities. Your guys' cities are probably some of the worst in the entire country for building new homes. To get a permit from tearing one house down to starting to dig and put another house up, it's 18 to 30 months. And so that you just can't get inventory. That's why, again, not political, owning properties in blue states are better than owning rental properties in red states, in my opinion.
Opposite, flip-flop.
Flip-flop. I'd rather own properties in blue states.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Why?
If you go look, I had a bet with my buddy the other day because he's like, I'm going to sell all his rentals in Tri-Cities and move them to Arizona because he's tired of Inslee's rules. Now, Seattle's different. I don't want to own anything in Seattle. I would never buy anything there. It's just, they're too crazy. I wouldn't buy there, but if you own it there, you look good. If you take from 2000, I think it was 2021, Phoenix metro area, median home price from 2000 to 2021, and LA County from 2000 to 2021, Phoenix went from 150 to like 252, I think it was what it was. LA went from 242 to like 845 median home price. You know why? Because you can't build anything. If you can't build anything, if you can't add supply to the market, then values, what do they have to do? They have to go up, supply and demand, right? So in red states, they are easier to build, so they have a lot of more urban sprawl, right? So like Phoenix got crushed before because they were building 500,000 tract homes places. You can't do that. Where can you do that in Seattle? You can't, right? And so Texas won't flip blue. Anyway, but let's not make opinions. You guys ask questions, but yeah. So from a non-political standpoint, where do we want to own stuff? In my opinion, I want to own stuff in blue states to a certain extent, right? I wouldn't go buy in California. I wouldn't, certain ways. There's got to be other factors there, but that's where you're insulated. So again, why I say that is because I feel like Kirkland, Bellevue is more insulated. Now, the other issue you guys have ran into in Seattle is they've lost 10,000, since 2020, they've lost 10,000 rental units in Seattle that are just sold to owner occupants because people don't want to have rentals there. So what's that going to do? That's going to drive, renters are less rentals in Seattle, so it's going to drive rents up, right? Everything is very supply and demand driven. So do you guys focus on just that avatar market? when you're going there. So how do we market to that avatar? So let's pick a couple avatars that you guys want to market to, and we will kind of go over and build a game plan for, let's say, 3 different types of avatars that you guys think are a good fit for you. We'll start with one and then we'll go from there.
An example of a type of investment.
No, not an investment, just type of seller, buyer, whatever, anything in this segment that who is your person you want, like, who's the person that you really most identify with? I'll just pick people. The lady with the black shirt and the green coat that's sitting in there. Who's your avatar?
Green coat.
The blonde, she's blonde, yep, right there with the hands, 2 hands up. There. Yeah.
Amanda.
What's the right there?
Yeah.
I did a whole list.
Well, if you were, no, yeah, just who is your avatar?
They're very specific. They are techies and criminals.
And criminals.
What type of criminals?
Yeah, lawyers and politicians.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Okay.
People that either follow the rules or think unconventional.
Beautiful. I love it. That is such a great avatar. That is perfect. So, all right. Now, I would say that lawyers and politicians and your techies might be a little bit different because I think a lot of the techies might be like the millennials that have that, what do they call it, that fire. They want to retire early, right? They have that, they live below their means. They care about more experiences in life than they do spending to their like maximum income.
Yeah, they follow directions. Like they're good at coding and like specifics.
Yeah, but are they spending, like, if they make $300,000, are they spending $300,000 or are they spending 150?
Here they're spending 1.2.
No. I'm talking about their salary, on their salaries, on their income. Are they savers or are they spenders?
They're under their means.
Yeah.
Okay, lawyers are usually not, right?
Oh, yeah.
Politicians, probably not in a lot of ways. Those are 2 different avatars in my opinion. And tell me if I'm wrong, but if we were to generalize, lawyers show up in a very expensive suit. They need to drive the car, they need to have the watch because they need to show clients that they're successful, correct? Coders don't give a shit because they still live in their mom's basement most of the time, right? Because they don't, right? So they're 2 different people. Politicians, they need to look presentable. So I'm going to split those actually into 2 avatars because I think those are 2 different types of people. Maybe they're buying the same types of properties, but they're 2 different types of people. So how do we market to those type of people? Well, and how do we act like that? So first, we're going to find out where their watering holes, right? Where these guys go and spend time with. Because you're going to have, there's a lot of them, but there's not a lot of them, right? So you need to get in that pool. One of the guys that has done this really well in Vancouver for probate lawyers, he actually provides them a meeting space every month for them to get together, puts food in there, not buying them, he just puts food and snacks in there and provides them a space to go meet with the other lawyers every single month. Who do you think gets all the probate deals in Vancouver? Him. This is no question. He gives them good but he also gives them very good service, right? So how do we market to that type of person? Well, I'm going to go pull a list of lawyers, and maybe I can't, if you can find a meeting space or do something like that, but you're going to say, hey, look, all the lawyers that are, ambulance chasers, I'm going to put them in a group. You guys probably like to get together. Where do you guys get together? Try to figure that out. And how do I get them to go in the same meeting space? Lawyers also love gifts, right? So one thing people don't do very well is they don't give people very good gifts. So one of our thoughts on Normans is I'm going to give them very good gifts. I can spend more money on them for marketing because there's less of them, right? That's more on the sniper side. I can spend more money to market to them than I would on like just every multifamily property. So say you specialize in lawyers and you say, I want to go after ambulance chasing lawyers. So I'm going to pull a list of 50 of them. I'm going to go spend time and I'm going to research all 50 of them and find out what they like. Do they like to golf? Do they have kids? Stalk them on Facebook. They married, second marriage, first marriage, third marriage, 7th marriage. I don't know.
Whiteboard.
What?
I pulled a list out of like, there's a Seattle magazine with contacts in it. So I pulled the top 10 for each list that I like.
Yep.
And I have a whiteboard at home and I start drawing webs about them.
Yep.
And start looking at their social circles so the algorithm will pick it up. And then eventually.
I'm sorry, I can't hear her.
So she has a whiteboard at home, and through the Seattle magazine, she contacts the top 10 within that sector of what she's looking for. she understands their social web, so she'll go out there and
I draw it.
she draws the web around them, and she'll go out there and interact with the social circle
Or I'll target like
on social
golf
media,
course.
just so the algorithm picks it up and it's like,
Yep, that's fantastic. So, but then how are you, so you're going to go try to socialize with them and introduce yourself. I would also say sending them gifts. So if I know their social web, I know these things about them, I'm going to send them gifts. And I have a different philosophy on gifts. I get gift baskets of food and cakes and all this stuff all the time. That is a gift that is one for one. You don't remember that gift, right? I have a good example, same developer I talked about before. He had a best friend that they grew up with last year commit suicide, left behind a 7, 5, and 3-year-old. Super sad story. The developer guy, they managed 400,000 acres of ranch land in Oregon. I had a painting commissioned of 2 guys on a horse overlooking a field of elk, because he's a hunter, so I figured they were both hunters, with the Sisters Mountains in the range behind it. That guy is going to hang that up in his house. One, he started crying. It creates an emotional reaction, right? Because we're going after people, so it's an emotional reaction, just like Nike and Coca-Cola. And it's going to be in a spot where he talks about it all the time. So every time he talks about that gift, my cost per impression in the tech world, right? Cost per pay-per-click, my cost per impression went down. So how do you create an emotional reaction with that person? Well, you have to know them very well. The best way to create emotional reactions as well is not always gifts for the person. They have wives, they have kids, they have grandkids, whatever. Do you listen to these people? Do you listen to these sellers? Do you listen to the people you're talking to and hear them? My grandson's birthday is coming up in 3 weeks. He loves XYZ. You know what's a really good present? XYZ for the grandkid. Because people that you're going after have money to buy anything they want most of the time in this segment. They can buy anything they want. And those, especially doctors or lawyers and politicians, are probably very selfish, and they probably do buy everything they want. So how do you get an emotional reaction and you make an impact on their wife and their kids? Go ahead.
So I try to create an experience that they're going to use every day. And so like one of my clients closed, and he's very into like physical health and like reading all about his whole body and how it operates. And he was having like pain and he wasn't sleeping well. So I Googled what to do about that, which keeps your body temperature.
Yep, I have one.
And so every time he wakes up or goes to bed, it's inevitable that like I have this because Amanda gave it to me.
Yeah, and that costs you $700 to $1,000, and one deal pays for that in a million, and you're going to get every deal from here on out, and then he's going to tell his friends. But how do you get to those people, right? First off, he's your client already, but how do we get to those people? We make an emotional, we have to get past the gatekeepers for those people. So how do we do that? We send really good effing gifts that make them pick up the phone to want to call you, right? Now let's talk about, tech guys. I would say they're in the same, let's say they're kind of the same avatar, but let's talk about an avatar that's like entry-level buyer, right? Entry-level house buyer. So who's your typical entry-level house buyer? Millennials, okay.
They get $1 million or less.
What do you say?
Buying at $1 million or less.
buying at $1 million or less is kind of the first timer.
Okay, millennials is a pretty broad term.
Yeah, they work for Boeing, they work for Amazon, they work for Microsoft.
They don't work anywhere else?
Want to be a teacher,
Oh, yeah. I mean, broad,
it's
Broad, right? Okay. So then let's make it more specific. Okay. Is our millennial married? No, they're not married. You don't have any first-time home buyers that are married.
well, I mean,
Yes.
Brian can speak to this.
Yeah, so most of my clients are married. They're usually blue collar employees, or maybe it's like one tech person with a blue collar spouse.
Okay. There we go. That's what I want to hear.
Household income of 300 or less, maybe 250 or less, and
Okay.
they're buying 750 to $1 million.
Okay. How much money do they have down?
5 to 10%.
Okay. What's their political leanings?
Blue.
How far blue?
Yeah, mid blue.
Mid blue. Okay. And what are their hobbies?
Outdoor stuff. Hiking, biking,
I can't be friends with those people. My wife's an outdoor. She wants to do hiking and backpacking and all that stuff. I don't want nothing to do with it. So how do we target those people, right? So like you guys said, that's a very broad range of people, right? So how would we look at that? That's going to go more into the machine gun approach, right? So to collect, we got to start collecting those people. So what ways are we going to do that? You can pull lists of anything, right? So you can pull lists with people with that income, with that marriage level, with that age group, and you can probably get granular enough where you can get political. You can at least get political on like Facebook ads, PPC ads, things like that. So we are going to then pull in a lot broader group of people is what we're going to search for, just like you would on a cold calling campaign, right? So you have all these leads that come in that they might just not be ready yet. So then what we do is then we build a campaign. What's your name, Mr. Mariners? Brian, great. So then tell me this. Would you say your job is to educate that group of people more than anything? Okay. Because they don't know. They don't know do I want to live in Seattle? I mean, they might know a general idea, but they don't understand west of Market, east of Market, right?
The other thing, Elliot, one of them, if not both of them, are from out of town. They're not local to Seattle.
Yeah, because they got brought in for the tech job, correct?
Because they were local to Seattle. They already have an agent that they grew up with, who's a friend, who's a real estate agent. But they reached out to me because they don't know anybody in Seattle who's a real estate agent.
Okay, so how many percentage would you say of your buyers come from out-of-town agent referrals?
0.
Is that what you just said, though? They have an agent from out of town?
Sorry, if they lived in Seattle or they were from Seattle, they already had an agent from like a friend or something like, somebody that they grew up with. But
everybody has an agent. Everybody's got a cousin or a sister that's an agent. That doesn't mean anything.
But if you move here for your IT job,
you don't know anybody. Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Sorry, I thought you had said that they had an agent. So okay. So yeah, so how do we build a marketing campaign once you can collect those people? So first we build a list and we find a way to like how to buy your first home, right? So first time home buyer classes, things like that. So whatever you can do to collect those people, you can call them, you can send them text messages, you can send emails, you can run Facebook, PPC ads, things like that, that is very highly specific, just like Nike or Coca-Cola. Your ads are going to be much more like that, where there's going to be a bunch of them, but they're not going to be like gifts to lawyers and doctors. You're not going to spend $1,000 for this client, right? So then how do you build that? Because a lot of those people might not be ready right now, right? They're going to be ready in sometime in the future, right? So that's going to be like our machine gun leads that you just have to wait till it's the right time. But how do you make sure when it's the right time, you're the person you call? So if I'm you and I'm going to spend a bunch of time doing a newsletter. Like we have a guy here that's multifamily specific commercial broker. He's only 2 years into this. He is now the biggest multifamily broker in Eastern Washington, probably. He's working with Berkadia, all these guys, because he got very specific and he has a very, very good newsletter and he adds a ton of value to people. This guy is awesome, right? He crushes it. But you need to start educating those people. Hey, what does raising interest rates mean to you? Hey, did you see this strike with the concrete shortage? What does that mean to you? What are these areas, different areas? Are you, if they're from out of town, are you also advising them on where to go do fun shit, right? Where are the best hikes if they like to go hiking outdoors? Do you have a website and our monthly newsletter or things that go over best hikes in Washington that you actually go hike yourself? Then you have pictures of it. Like my wife and I went and hiked, right? I have a buddy, Brandon Turner, that does a weekly newsletter. That there's something like a value, something he did, and he has pictures from his week. So like if he goes out and goes hiking, here's a hike I took, really enjoyed it. Here's a book I'm reading, here's why I enjoyed it, right? So you are in the continuing education business right now to build that sphere. Are you doing quarterly events? Can you do quarterly events to like mixers, right? You could go run out of space or use it here and spend $500 on food and drinks and have people like, hey, here's other people that are looking to buy a house. Let's network, because the other thing that people are missing when they come in from out of town, what's the one thing that they're missing when they move from out of town? Probably the most important thing in life. Friends, community. How do you build community? Has anybody watched that new WeWork thing on We Crashed on Apple?
I've been told
It's
to
on
watch
my
it.
list.
It's super good. So, and I'm like 3 episodes in, but when he's talking on there, everything that they focused on was building community. Millennials want community. They don't want things. They're not they don't want the things that the lawyers want, right? They don't want things. They want a good life. They're going to work really hard, but they're going to try to retire early. They want to have good experiences. They want friends in that space that think, act, and know like them. They want maybe their church community, maybe things like that. So how do you build community? and build community around them, you'll have more people in your pipeline than you'll ever imagine, in my opinion. And once you start building them, when the mortgage rates do change and things change and they have to go to step-up buyers, well, all of a sudden then I'm building out a listing agent team that is ready for them because I'm going to continue taking care of them all the way through. So I'm going to list their house, and then we have specialized buyers, and then those people, you start educating them on the next step up in a few years. You keep them on your newsletter. Where are the next things? Find out when they're going to have kids. Ask them these, build relationships with them, call them, things like that. How do you engage with them to build community and be part of their lives for the next 25 years?
Yep. And that's really how I've been building my business, is doing that. And it's been growing every year because they're now coming back around and doing the stuff up. And so it's been pretty fun.
Yeah. And so there's two people here, guys, that are doing two totally different things. Can I ask, okay, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything. Are you guys both doing well? Let's just ask you that.
Yes.
Lawyer, you're both doing well. Would you say you're top producers? Top, higher end on the topper scale of producers?
Amanda's growth this year has been
Yeah.
Good. You're growing to be that person though, right? So two people that are serving, like we talked about, right? What did I say? The $10 million, 100 deals, 10 deals. Two people that are serving two different segments of the markets, but they were both very, very specific, right? Amanda knew exactly who her person was. She knew exactly where to find them. She knew exactly where to go. Brian? Oh, perfect. Look at that. Proud of myself. Names I don't remember. I remember numbers, right? Brian, very specific. He knew exactly who his people were. He knew where they're coming from. He knew how to do it. So be very, very specific on those things and get creative. There's a very good book that everybody should read. It's called, it's a gift book, Giftology. Very quick book, Giftology. It's a very, very good book, very good Audible. And it just talks about how do you get past people, or how do you create a response out of people? And that's really what like my job is. How do I create a response out of people? They might be negative responses sometimes, but I'm trying to engage and solicit a response, right? So how do I get those responses? Once I get them in, then it's a sales process. Now, so let's talk to the sales and how do we interact with people's process, right? So I don't always have the same avatar that I deal with. I deal with a lot of different types of sellers that I've dealt with over the years. Some people are very blue collar, very unemployed, or very drug addicts, drug addicts to death, to lawyers and doctors that have millions of dollars. So in this industry, again, it's not about the house, right? It's not about the product that you're selling. Do you need to be educated on your product? Yes, absolutely. But you are selling from the very first second you pick up the phone to the very first time you meet somebody, you are selling. And 80%, let's say, of your communication is nonverbal, right? So when somebody is talking to me on the phone, I tend to talk fast if people can't understand that or see that yet. I talk fast. I take away, that's just how I am. But if I have to slow down because the lady's older, I slow down. If I need to talk more because they're very quiet and I need to pull things out of them, I talk more. If they have a huge ego and they need to be the one that's at the power position, then I talk less and I play like a little possum, like, oh, you're so great, guy. You're so amazing. You have to understand personalities in this business. Now, avatars are one thing, but people are going to have, then you break it down to another level of personalities, right? Amanda probably deals with guys that are very nice and easygoing, but then she probably deals with a bunch of guys that are people that have a lot of huge egos. And so, you have to flatter and stroke that ego, right?
When I picked my avatar, or like my client base, there was a category for like techies, and trust fund babies were also on there. And so I just had one that was a techie and a trust fund baby.
Nice.
Didn't go well.
Why? Why?
There was a sense of entitlement because the money was there, but there was like an annoyance to spend it. And then the directions I gave were always questionable instead of like here's the directions. If we follow them, everything will be okay.
Did you humble yourself and put your ego to the side and let him feel like he was in charge and in control?
Oh yeah.
But you just told me that you gave him directions and he didn't follow your directions.
Well, my favorite word is no. So when he asked me more questions or answered me with no, I went around it and found a yes for the same thing. So I had to give like multiple options, multiple choices, tons of extra conversations that I normally don't have with clients because they just trust me and let me do what I need to do. And then the icing on the cake was I put like paint on the walls. So he's going to go there and move in, and it's going to be like painted and cleaned and like.
So you did get the deal done though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you adapted, right? And that's the thing a lot of people don't do. They don't adapt, right? You had to adapt of how you were with him. Like you said, made a comment just a minute ago about how most people just let me do my job and just listen to me. Some people don't want to. They want to question everything. But there's nothing wrong with that, but if he's entitled, it's just different. I mean, again, there's different types of people. So how do we blend ourselves to be those different types of people, right? Now, Brian's kind of people are probably going to be people that are going to really, you're probably not going to find many of those trust fund babies in there, I'm guessing. And they're going to be very much, if he's built the expert level, I'm the expert, I'm the professional, I'm the guy, then they're just going to listen to him in a lot of ways. But he's got to also be able to hear them what they're saying. Because as soon as they don't think he heard them, like if they said they want to live west of Market and he starts showing them houses east of Market, then all of a sudden we have a problem. He's no longer, because he's not actually listening to him. So he needs to be a very active listener in that situation. Probably doesn't need to talk as much with those people. He just needs to listen. So when he does talk, they listen, right? And so there's different types of people, how you deal with those mindsets. And so there's another way that I do this where if I am going to somebody's house that is very, they inherited the house, I can tell that they're less than blue collar, they're probably, going to spend the money on drugs as soon as I can. I actually show up in gym shorts and a t-shirt every time without fail. That's how I show up there. I change the way I dress for every single type of seller. If I go there in slacks and a collared shirt or a button-up shirt in that situation, they are immediately turned off, right? So everything how I dress, if I'm Brian, I'm wearing a Mariner shirt and jeans probably. I'm going to be just a normal guy. If I am going to a lawyer, I'm probably going to have to, this is why sometimes it's harder to be in that market, in the luxury market, because you have to probably spend some money. I'm going to have a nicer car and I'm probably going to have a nice watch. But if I'm going with people, and that's the people that are spending the money, spending more than they make. Now, if I'm dealing with rich people, I'm probably showing up in maybe shorts and a t-shirt. I've actually showed up to seller appointments in sweatpants before with guys that have money, because guys that have money drive an F-150 and don't give a shit. They don't have to show Gucci or anything like that. They don't care, right? So who is my person that, and it's not that I'm trying to be fake. It's that I'm just understanding who my person I'm dealing with is and trying to relate to them on their level. There's a very good book that I've probably read and listened to 15 times that got me thinking. Everybody says they really like that Never Split the Difference on Sales and Negotiation. I don't really like that book. Pitch Anything by Oren Klaff is a fantastic book. It talks all about frame control. How do you control frames? So in any conversation, there's going to be a frame. There's going to be a dominant person and there's going to be a submissive person in a lot of ways. So if I'm dealing with Ian Morrell, everybody knows Ian. Ian and I have very similar personalities that can clash, right? Not that we clash in any way, but it's just those personalities can tend to clash because we kind of go about things the same way. And each of us are going to compete for that dominance in that frame, in that type of personality, in that given scenario. Now, what's that?
First, listen second.
Sorry, I can't hear. Say it one more time. Yeah, exactly. Both of us. That's all we want to do. So we're going to fight the whole time to get a word in, right? Now, if Ian comes in, so it talks about how you break frames and people's ego and things, like break them down to get them to listen. One of the good stories in that book, this guy he pitched billion-dollar deals, right? This guy pitched everything. So he's dealing with every different types of people. One of the guys he was trying to raise money from, he had a meeting with him in his office, and the guy's just sitting there eating an apple, not really paying attention, sitting on his cell phone, reading emails like Brian in the back corner, or maybe he's taking notes, right? No offense, I'm just giving you a hard time. That was a joke, by the way. Anyway, so just listening. The guy wasn't actively listening to him, right? So the guy's eating an apple. So Oren, the guy, goes to the back. They had some knives and like stuff in his big office, grabs a knife, walks around, picks the apple off his desk, cuts him off a slice, and says, how I like to do deals is I like to give a piece to everybody. Puts it down. Do you think that guy was engaged? after that because he broke that guy's frame. He broke whatever that guy was doing, and that guy immediately stopped and looked at him like, who the hell is this guy? This came and took my apple, right? So how do we break things like that, and how do we take control of the situation? Now, taking control doesn't mean I have to be in lead position like Amanda said, where people normally listen to her. Taking control of the situation in that was stepping back and doing a different way and understanding who she deals with. So how do we deal with those things? This is when I talk about, do you study the market, industry, local economics? Do you study how to deal with people? You are in the people business. You are collecting people. And you're finding out what type of people do I want to collect? Do I want to collect Brian's type of people, or do I want to collect Amanda's people, or do I want to collect different types of people? Who do I want to collect? That's the first thing. How do we market to those people? How do we get them in our sphere? And then how do we interact with people? Because every group is going to have different types of people, right? You have the people that talk too much like me, say inappropriate things like me. That's just who I am, right? Then you have the people that are very passive like my wife that listen first and want to hear things, but they're very attentive and they are internalizing and being strategic in there. You have the people that think they know everything, but they don't because they watch all CNN or all Fox News and they heard the news tell them this, and so they think they know everything, and you're wrong, even though you studied this for 10 years. So how do I deal with those type of people, right? I let them think they're right. I just lead them to a different way to see why I am right, with them still thinking that they were the one that got me there, right? And then there's going to be people that are just so passive, that are frozen, they can't make decisions. You have to make decisions for them.
I have a question, Elliot.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're talking about with someone who has a strong ego, they're a self-made, wealthy person, maybe lawyer, maybe politician, whatever, and you're allowing them to take front seat with their ego and letting them be right and being like, okay, cool. How do you though? I can get that, but then how do you then see your value and respect you when you're always kind of taking back seat to their ego?
You send them ULAs. She sent them talking about the cooler, the bed cooler. You find ways to build because what they're doing in that situation, they don't look at you as an equal. In that situation, their ego, they don't look at you as equal. So how do I become an equal to them? Right? One, I don't go there and try to brag about everything I'm doing or who I am or all these great things that I've done and why they should listen to me. I show them why I'm an expert. I find problems before they're problems. One thing I used to do at Fran's when I worked there as a bread company, and all the managers had these big ass egos. Most of the receiving clerks were always the guys that got beat up, and they have a little bit of power, but they got beat up in high school probably really bad. They have some power, but they're not enough power to manage anybody. Grocery managers, they're trying to work their way up, so they're trying to prove stuff to everybody that they're the guy, they want to be a store manager. What I would do when I would take a new route over, the first day I would go into this store, and I knew it was my store, I'd figure out who the manager I needed to deal with was. And I would purposely leave things on my truck that were out of stock and that were in the store on sale and were out of stock. And I purposely would leave them in my truck. I would go to that store manager and say, hey, I'm Elliot, introducing myself. I'm here to take care of you. By the way, you're out of XYZ and we have a promotion on it. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it. I'm going to come back on my way home and I'm going to bring this to you and make sure you have enough. I'm going to take care of you. Not asking them for anything, right? So then I walk back into the store and make sure I walk by them while I'm carrying this bread after I just worked 13 hours. And then if I go tell them, hey, John, just to let you know, I filled your shelf with that stuff like we talked about earlier. I bumped the order up, really apologize about that. I'll make sure your route's dialed. Right then, what do they know? They know they never have to worry about me and question me, ever. So I take that in another situation. How do you find a situation in that where you can find a way where there's something it's not really a problem yet, but you can make it look like a problem that's not your fault, and tell them how you solve this problem without even letting them know there was a problem. If that makes sense. So I created an issue that wasn't really an issue. I told them, and it's not deceitful in a sense, like I'm gonna take care of them, but I know I'm gonna do the best job. Like you said, you know you're good for this client, you know what the hell you're doing. You just have to break through that frame of why, to make them think you're an equal or you're on top of everything, right? That you're the expert. That's really all you're trying to do, is make them know that you're the expert and give you the respect that that's who you are. So I'm going to find something that's going to be an issue that's not going to affect, financial or things like that, and just communicate how I took care of it. And I'm going to do that in that sense a couple of different times, because the reason those guys got to where they are is they were in the details, in the weeds. They started from the ground up. They built everything, and they had to grind out hard. They know all these things, and they have to be in control, because what they've learned, employees are hard, people are hard, and if you want things done right, you have to do it yourself. So until you can build the trust with them that, hey, I got this, you have a lot of things to deal with, I'm on it, you have to show them why you're on it really, really quickly. Make sense? Is there opportunities that, what would be some opportunities that you would think, I haven't dealt with those guys, on a sales side, on a real estate side. What are some opportunities you could have that would be issues that you could use in a situation to show them that you're on top of things?
Well, I actually have a potential client that is kind of like this. He likes to just tell me exactly how badass he is, and that, there's sort of a talking down to me, and it's fine, whatever, I can handle it. But
No, you shouldn't have to handle it, by the way. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
Well, I mean, because it's manageable, handle it. Like if
Yeah.
you got too far, I know where my value is like, no, we're not gonna work together. But it's sort of like, I'm fine taking a back seat to your ego, because my ego is like, I'm fine. He wants to just tell me about how he knows everything and how I may or may not know everything, but he's just really waiting to see if I can prove myself, and tells me about how all these other realtors have failed in the past. So when I got done with my conversation with him, what he kept telling me was the things that he wanted in a house and what he wanted to accomplish selling his house, and how no other realtors listed it before. So when the conversation was over, I sent him an email summarizing our conversation, hitting the key points of, okay, he mentioned his wife really needs an office. He mentioned, whatever, these things. He needs a dining room. So I just sent him an email summary of the conversation, thanking him for the conversation, to show him that I actually listened. So that was kind of how I was trying to show.
So I would do that a little bit differently. I don't know how that worked out. What is the one thing that rich people want?
Recognition.
Something they can't have, right?
Oh.
Right? Something you can't have, right? What do most people do in this? They try to bow down to these people because they have money. They say, oh, I really want to list the house. The reason I dress the way I dress and the way I act the way I act and the attitude I always have is I don't need you. I don't need to buy your house, Mr. Seller. If it works, great. You have to have that attitude of, I don't need to work for you. If you think that all these other realtors failed because they didn't do it this way, maybe you should just list it for sale by owner, John. Or maybe you should go find it for sale by owner, go work it that way. Because obviously it doesn't sound like real estate agents are working for you. I just don't want to waste your time or my time. I use that line all the time. I don't waste your time or my time. But you have to show them that you don't need them. Yeah. Right? Because that takes all their power away in that situation. I do that all the time with sellers. I don't need you. Fine, sell it to somebody else. Fine, go sell it to them. Just make sure when you do it, make sure they match my terms with my non-refundable earnest money and no inspections. That's fine. Make sure they show you proof of funds, by the way. But all right. So again, that's the hardest thing for people to do, because most real estate agents aren't making a ton of money. And so when they do get in a living room, they come across with commission breath or whatever, in a sense, right? Like where they're like, oh yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do that. They don't set boundaries, right? Like if you're dating somebody, like say you're single, right? And you're like, you really want a boyfriend or girlfriend, right? And then you just can't find anybody. But as soon as you get in a relationship, what comes at your way? All these people that want to date. Like it's just the way it works, right? Because you're not looking for it anymore, right? You don't need it. So, but the reason you weren't getting it in the first place is because you were coming off very needy. And you were saying like, you're putting out that aura into the world that I need this, I need to have a relationship or whatever, right? So if you're putting out there like, I need this listing, and people can feel that on you. You don't even, they can feel it as soon as you walk in. That's why like me going to buy a commercial building in sweatpants is a power move in a sense, because I'm telling them I give 0 Fs if I buy this. I don't need to impress you because I don't need it. So how do you get in that thing? And that breaks the frame, because you're ego or not. Yes, you can let people have an ego. You have to take control and you have to get on a level playing field, because if they don't respect you, why do this? Because if you don't make people respect you, that means you don't respect yourself enough to do that in a sense. And I'm not saying you did that in any way. Please don't take it that way. But you have to say, look, I have boundaries. I have lines. I don't need you.
Okay, so then I want to push back on you a little bit, because it sounds like you're kind of saying two different things, in that you're saying like, let them have the ego and then to show them instead of telling them. But then you're also saying, I don't need you, which I get.
Yeah, but you're showing, what are you showing him? You're not solving a problem. You're just showing him that you took better notes than the last agent. Right? Yeah, it's showing you that you listen, but again, that's not the thing. Every agent can go listen to what kind of house they want. Again, we're not about the house, but are you hearing things from them? Are you finding things? What I would have done instead, maybe you send a letter, but I would probably send a handwritten letter. Hey, John, really nice talking to you. Yeah, I've looked at pictures of on your wall or these things. I'm going to send him a very nice gift basket, a custom gift. Hey, I saw that something in your house or something that caught my eye for him or his wife, with a handwritten letter. Hey, really enjoyed talking to you. Here's a couple things I heard you say that were really important to you. Let me know when you're ready to start talking. Because anybody can send an email. Again, we're trying to set ourselves a top. We're not trying to sell a house. We're trying to collect people. So if that guy, what's the value of that guy's house that you're trying to list or buy or whatever? What's the value of it?
So selling at 2.5 and buying probably around 1.5 because he wants to keep cash in his pocket. I've only had a phone conversation with him yesterday. I haven't been in his house yet because they're going on a cruise.
Okay. So did you ask, so is it all business, or did you talk about anything? Did you build any rapport?
Oh, I built tons of rapport. We were on the phone for almost an hour.
Beautiful. Okay. Where's his trip? Where's he going on his trip? Where's he going on his trip? What?
Well, first he's going to South America to visit his grandson, and then they're going to go on a cruise in the Mediterranean.
Perfect. When's he leaving?
Thursday for the South America, back for a minute, then coming back June 1st.
How old's his grandson?
6.
Okay. What's his grandson? What do you think his grandson likes?
I don't know that.
Okay. A South American. Let's stereotype a little bit here.
I
would go get a gift that was small enough to pack on a suitcase, and I would go drop it off, and I would get something that made his flight more comfortable.
Yeah.
Some kind of headphones, some kind of snacks that maybe you might think he might like, with a handwritten note on his doorstep. Say, hey, really enjoyed our phone conversation. Have a safe trip. Let me know if you need anything while I'm here. I can keep you updated if you want to list. Talk to you when you get back.
Very powerful. Don't have his address, and I did follow up. I did tell him. Yeah.
I can find his. He didn't tell you his address of his house?
I can easily find it, but I don't have that yet.
We'll get it.
Yeah, you can find it in 5 minutes. I can find it in 2 seconds. We can find it right now. I'll send him a gift. Amazon's less than an hour in Seattle. But right. So, and I'm gonna tell you. So we met with a guy. Me and my partner Greg. We were down in Arizona meeting guys. One of the guys we met with and had breakfast with, that I'm kind of buddies with, he owns 46,000 units, Bridge Equity Group. They started it back in 1991. Rich guys love their effing dogs. Don't understand why. They have grandkids and stuff, but they're all over the country. They love their freaking dogs. These guys literally bought a house right next to their other house because it was better for their dogs. They bought a different plane because it was better for their dogs. So what we did is we went and put the most awesome $200 gift basket for both dogs, because they have 2 dogs. Because they fly on their plane, their private plane. We put stuff on there like snacks, toys for them. Said, hey, I know you're traveling. Hopefully your dogs enjoy these on the plane trip.
Nice.
So, the text, I get immediate text. His wife's like, that was really cool, because I created an emotional reaction in him, right? An email, I have 30 emails sitting in my inbox. So you show that you're an active listener by the things that don't actually matter in the transaction, not by listing out what he wants to buy.
That's great.
So, but then where you said I contradicted myself with the ego thing, I let them have their ego. I don't be the person, but I'm going to suppress that ego by doing this. And I'm also going to suppress that ego by acting like I don't need this in any way, because I'm going to take some of that power away from their ego, because their ego is there because they don't respect you in a lot of ways, right? Yes, I still have an ego to a certain extent in some ways, so it is what it is. Some of it's you got to put up with, but I'm going to make that playing field a little bit more level. And then at that point, you can change that in that sense.
So you're not being, okay, that all makes sense.
So I'm not going to be passive. Oh, let me do everything. Oh, let me go wash your car. Let me go, I'll jump I'll jump when you say jump. Oh, let me do all these things. No, because then you're just going to be an order taker. They don't need any more order takers.
Well, the only way they're going to respect you is if they feel like you're on the same playing field, and if you're like being all passive and being like, "Oh, I'll kiss your ass," then they're going to just see you as what they already think you are. But if you're like, "Cool, I'm going to show you and do all these things, but I don't need this. If this isn't going to work, then yeah."
Yeah, and you don't have to be on the same playing field like income and money wise. That doesn't matter. So like you don't have to show up there in a like these guys. Like you can show up that level person. You probably show up if they're older. A nice F-150 or things like that. You don't have to have like a doctor and lawyer. They probably want to see flashy cars, nice Rolex, things like that. You can just be a normal Joe most of the time, like wear nice shoes, nice shirt, dress nice and appropriate like you would for a Friday night date, but just be a normal person. But that starts the conversation. Like, I'm not trying to impress you. My results will impress you. Who I am as an agent will impress you. Who I am as a closer will impress you. My word when I say I'm going to do something will impress you. Because everybody can go buy fancy clothes and a nice car. Not everybody, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, you lease it if you can't buy it. There you go.
What's that?
Lease or
I
rent.
said you lease it if you can't buy it, the fancy car.
Oh, yeah, whatever. But again, whatever. I'm not going to get that in that sense. But you're just trying to, who's your avatar? Brian, not saying he does, but he could probably drive a nice 2015 Toyota Corolla. And that's fine. I mean, if he shows them the value that he brings, but he also shows them he's one of them. He understands them. He hears them. People want to be connected. They want to have connection. They want to know that you hear them you hear them, not for the house they want to build, but the life that they have and who they are as a person, because that's what you're selling is the next step for that of who they're going to become and the community they're going to build and the feelings they're going to have and the memories they're going to make, right? Piece of house is just nothing without somebody inside of it. Wood box.
Well, this is actually a great segue, Elliot, because we are going to start advanced sales training. We go over all this stuff. I mean, there's a lot of us who've been through it, but we talk about the building rapport and all that stuff going through. So this is a good reminder. We're going to go into.
I guess you didn't even need me then. You could have taught the class.
Hey, you have the outcome, the results. Of course you did.
So I'm gonna tell you why these things matter. And I'm going to show you on an example. So we just bought a 31 unit with a lot to build 6 for $3.2 million. Brother managed the property, inherited. Brother and sister lived in Seattle. Brother was getting 2/3 of the property. Brother and sister were pissed that he was getting 2/3. However, it was willed out. We called the brother. This was our Norman. We called the brother that was managing the property. And we're like, hey, we want to buy this, blah, blah, blah. We're talking to him, build a good rapport with him. He's like, well, unless you can get to this, everybody had both parties had their own lawyers. And he said, anything that I say to my brother and sister, they're not going to want to do it because they're going to think I'm trying to screw them. So we emailed him an offer that day. I happened to be in Seattle, and if I wasn't, I would have drove over. But I had my son. Found out the sister was a preschool teacher on Queen Anne, lived in Queen Anne. So very blue, very, left and whatever. So I go over there, 2 very nice manila folders, blue folders with business cards with printed out offers, cover letters, the whole thing. One for her and one for her brother there. Wore my mask. I took my 3-year-old with me to do this when I door knocked her, by the way. She's a preschool teacher. And so, yes, they liked us. They agreed to the offer. Offer sat on the lawyer's desk. Lawyers kill deals, by the way. I hate lawyers. They kill deals. 3 desks the lawyer sat on this. We had an MLS form, all this stuff. He had to rewrite it in his own thing, blah, blah, blah. I kept building the rapport with the seller that was at the property because he was the one that everybody was going to call. That was the guy that everybody was going to talk to. Nobody was going to talk to the other brother and sister. He kept getting offers solicited while we were under contract. One of the offers came from guys from your side of the state. We were at 3.2, 3.7, all cash, close in 2 weeks, $200,000 non-refundable. He told him to go pound sand. Because we built very good rapport. So you have to understand money is not the most important thing to people. People that they can trust, know, like, and trust is the most important thing. Now, some people, money is the most important thing. Yes, it is. That is true. And now you're not going to win all the time with those people. Most people would take in that other offer. But if you understand your avatar, you understand your seller, you understand the people, you understand their emotions, you understand how to deal with them, you can help them and make them feel better when Brian's making offers for 20 houses that they still haven't got the 20th house, right? You can make them feel better because you understand that emotion reaction. You feel these guys. I go over there. I went and talked to this guy often and call him all the time. I literally, while we got under contract on this finally, the guy was having issues in the hospital. I offered to pick him up and take him to the doctor multiple times. My dad's a physician. I got him set up with my dad. I had a call with this because if you truly care about people, it comes through, right? But that's $500,000 that guy turned down and didn't tell anybody about because he liked me and he said I asked him why when we closed this deal. He's like, I gave you my word and I trusted that you're going to get it done. I mean, $200,000 non-refundable is pretty trustworthy. You're going to get it done, but so that is the key here of just, that's why this is so fun, because you get to impact people's lives. You get to impact people's futures. You get to impact memories. You get to change this world. And it just happens to be the vehicle is real estate. So how do we go find the people that we want to help change their world? That's how you pick your avatar. You don't pick your avatar because you want to be a luxury agent or you like this. You pick your avatar because of the people you want to be around. Who do you want to change? Who are you passionate about? You know, did you have blue collar working class parents and you want to help make their life better because or people like them life's better because your parents' retirement was better because they bought a house and they bought a couple rentals? So like, are you continuing the people that are in that millennial group that, are the first time home buyers? Are you starting to educate them about buying a rental or two? Are you trying to make their life better and going really, really deep with those people? And are you passionate about it? And that comes through. And that comes through in the point where you can say, I don't need to work with you because I have rules in myself that you're not my person. You don't need my help. You don't want me. I can't impact you. And one rule that I kind of end with is every person I talk to, I treat the same way I would treat my grandmother or my mother. Now, my son was named after my grandfather. So this lady is very important. I manage her finances. She's actually getting in her dementia. She's got really bad dementia a month or so ago. So it's sad, but I treat every person the same way I would treat them. So every piece of advice I would give to somebody I meet, no matter their personality or anything, would be the same advice that I would give my grandmother or my mother in the same situation. That's how I sleep at night. You see these people that you're like, oh, that person stole this person's house. These wholesalers stole this guy's house or whatever. I can sleep at night because they needed something different. And if I would have told my grandma the same thing, I'm going to do it. And also, my partner and I asked ourselves this question. If this was to get printed on the Seattle Times or the Columbian or the Tri-City Herald on the front page, how would it look? And if there's any way that I can't defend it and it's going to look really bad, I don't do it.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Great advice.
So, anyway, I don't know. Then you guys probably need CRMs. If you have good CRM, good lead management. Lead management's really hard. Make sure you have a good CRM to collect these people. Brian's going to have a lot of different people in his sphere, so you need to have a really good thing and build a marketing strategy out that you can automate marketing, automate your newsletter, have people, VAs, hire somebody to help write your newsletter. You can maybe dictate it, and then they can go write it. They can pull articles for things like that or whatever you want to make it easier. You can probably build it out a quarter at a time, add new news articles. CRMs to make sure in your marketing. You can use open letter marketing for direct mail. They have handwriting stuff on there. You can use Call I don't know if we have any room in Call Magic, but you could hire a cold call company. You could, if you have any questions, ask Stack on the direct mail. I can give you discounts and I can give you a list of things we use for all this stuff. If you have any questions or anybody has any questions on that stuff, I can give you that. And I get referrals. I can give you guys I get discounts for all the stuff we use. And I only recommend the things that we actually use in our business. I don't really make that much money on it. Also, like you said, I don't know their address. We have an affiliate with People Finder Pro, basically, but I give you a link, $20 a month, and you can do skip tracing, so you can find very specific people. It's like 70 cents a skip, so if you're trying to be very specific and find people, it's a good tool. It's not bulk skip tracing. So
yeah, that'd be awesome. You can send us send Kareem just a small list of some companies that you know and like.
Cool. So, do we have any questions? I guess. Hopefully, this is kind of what you guys were wanting.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, definitely, Elliot. Great job.
Cool. Thanks. Any questions? Oh, I'm gonna go over the poll results really quick. That's pretty fun. So, were you over 100, under 150 in gross commissions in 21? I kind of said yes or no. I kind of worded it wrong, so let's take this with a grain of salt. But yes for 61%, 40% for no. So, good job. And the guys that are under $150,000, use your time. You get over and get into the big leagues by using your time. You go build these relationships. You handwrite the letters yourself. You have more time capital than you have capital to do these things. You can't buy $1,000 sleep machine. So how do you do that? You go beat the streets. You go meet people. You do guerrilla marketing. You handwrite stuff. You spend lots of long hours. Do those things, the small things, and it will pay off dividends very quickly. Do you spend time studying your market, industry, and local economic factors on a micro level? 85% said yes, 14% said no. 14%, you need to study things. And I'm going to say out of a portion of the 85%, I would say you probably still need to go deeper into what your understanding is. You need to understand economics, interest rates, yield curve, why the yields matter. Most people think that mortgages are tied when the Fed, I hear this all the time from brokers and it drives me effing nuts. They say, oh, the Fed's raising the interest rates, so that means mortgages are going to go up. No, that is not what causes it. It has some effect on it, but that is not what causes it. What causes the interest rates to just spike up was, one, the Federal Reserve was buying $50 billion, which was 1/3 of every mortgage every month. 1/3 of every mortgage-backed security was bought by the Federal Reserve since 2020 of April. They just stopped buying them. So supply and demand, right? Just like we have lack of inventory because there's no supply. Well, now all of a sudden, supply and demand says, oh, the people that are buying the mortgages, now there's a bunch of supply and the demand just shrunk by 33%. So that's why mortgages just rose. Because they rose a lot more than 25 basis points, that's for sure, right? So that is a supply and demand market. Why did those rise? Things like that. Rates are also dictated off of, same thing on those treasury yields. Yields are going up. The 10-year treasury's at like 2.94, which is going to screw me on some of these deals that we have going, because the rates are based off that. If an investor can go buy a guaranteed treasury bond at 3%, why would they ever buy a mortgage at 3% where they're not even yet netting out 3%? Right? That's why rates rise, not because the Fed's rising, not only because the Fed's raising interest rates. So make sure you understand that and you can explain that to people in that.
Elliot, if you follow anyone specific, you also list out maybe some recommendations on people to follow or some sources of information.
I will. Well, I actually go through and like read the Fed minutes. I go read Fed report. Like I get on these like. I just got diagnosed bipolar too, so I get on these highs where I just get super focused and I start like till 3 a.m. and I'll start reading like I'll go read the bills that they're pushing through the House like the House and the representatives. Like I've gone through and spent time on like the state House bills and like reading that on real estate to find like all this stuff. Like, did you know that in a mobile home park community, if somebody's trying to sell it, the tenants can actually push back and actually stop you in the state of Washington to give themselves a chance to actually go buy that community themselves? I didn't know that, but it was buried in 30 pages of freaking documents in the state. So you want to be a student of the game, and a lot of it's fun. So I will send you some of the stuff that I read on it. You can't, most people won't go like that, but I enjoy it and I'm not doing a ton. Do you have an avatar written down? 57% said no. You will fail in this business if you do not get specific and not get very focused. You don't have to have a super specific avatar, but if you are not having a plan of what you're doing and you're just going with the way the wind blows you, you will fail at this business. Because the agents that are very specific, right, they will beat you. That is why we have the most real estate agents we've ever had. This is an 80-20, probably even more of a 90-10 rule. 10% of the agents make 90% of the money. If you don't have a plan and stick with that plan every day for the next 2 years, you will fail. And it's not that you're going to fail, it's because somebody else is going to beat you. They're going to study more, they're going to know more, they're going to market better, they're going to collect people better, and they're going to beat you. So 57%, that's pretty, if you're one of those no's, I would take a hard look if you're very passionate about real estate and how do I get very specific and how do I build a plan for the rest of the year. Build that person out. You don't have to be perfect, and it can change. That's the great thing. It can always change. Who you seem to, make a wider avatar and then try to narrow it down. Say by quarter 3, I'm going to start narrowing this down a little bit more every quarter. Do you have procedures that you follow to continue marketing to your sphere, and do you touch them at least once a quarter? Again, 57% said no. We are in an instant gratification world. Everything I want it right now, right? I go to Amazon, I want to buy something, I go to Amazon, I want it right now. But I still buy Lululemon stuff. You know why? Because that's what I think of when I say I want sweatpants. I still buy Coca-Cola. I don't buy Coca-Cola, but I don't drink pop. But if I was to buy that, I still buy that. Or I still buy Nike. You know why they continue to advertise? Billions and billions and billions of dollars all the time. Look at the Pfizer vaccine, right? Again, not vax or anything. They spent more money than any other person advertising in the last 2 years on those news networks. Why? They're mandating it. People are basically getting forced. Everybody knew about it. They just want their brand out there. They want to make sure people are aware. They didn't need to advertise. The government did it for them. So if you are not advertising you as a brand, you are the brand. The community, the feeling you give people, that is your brand. So if you're not advertising and touching people, all of a sudden I go to people's houses all the time. They have a stack of letters this high. They still call me. Why? Because they like my letter better and I don't stop effing mailing them. I'm literally still mailing people that I've been mailing since 2015 that haven't responded back to us. I have people die, their heirs call us, the person saved our letter and they only call us because it saved our letter. So if I wasn't marketing continuously and they didn't happen to get that letter and save it, well, then who knows? Or it happens to hit their mailbox and it was a follow-up letter like, hey, John just following up with you. You know, they're like, oh, John just died, but hey, looks like you guys were talking and I'll sell you the house. You are the brand. So if you're not building your brand and not marketing your brand, they're going to go to the next person that got the next letter the next day. I think those are things that you have to grind, you have to hustle, and you have to have faith in yourself, and you got to put money in yourself. You got to put time in yourself to understand this and be better than the person sitting next to you. Because as much as this is a camaraderie deal, real estate is very lonely in the sense of if you want to be good, like you're competing with every single person in this room. So how do you be better? How do you work together though and find if you have strengths here and they have strengths here, how do you work together? How do you build that? But also how do you build such good camaraderie and ethics that people want to work with you? And so if you go to an appointment, we did this a couple weeks ago. One of my buddies I wholesale stuff to, there was a house that came up and my sales guy was talking to the seller. And the seller says, hey, I'm talking to Todd. And that's my good buddy. And he's like, you know what? Todd will take really good care of you. Just go with Todd. Didn't try to go beat Todd. Hey, Todd, called Todd after that. Hey, Todd, I just want to let you know, I talked to seller at 123 Main Street. I really built you up, talked to her, told her, we're going to back off on this one. Todd came to my house. I didn't even know about this. Came to my house and handed me $5,000. Say, hey, thanks, I got that deal. Right? So, like, do you have respect for other people? Now, I understand it's different in some scenarios where you are competing, but you can go really far together in some ways. Like, if they're referring you to somebody that I don't want to flip that house, I'm just going to send it to Todd anyway. So why not just give it to him? He'll always take care of me. That's not my avatar. I don't want this. How do I, just because you're competitive, that's not my avatar. That's Brian's avatar. And then all of a sudden Brian gets an avatar that's your avatar, that's a lawyer, and Brian's like, hey, Stephanie, I got this lawyer that's right up your alley. Here you go. Because you're hyper focused, right?
For sure. You know this. Small sandbox that we all play. Yeah, we played together.
Any questions?
Question.
So you're talking about building your avatar and knowing kind of what's your target, right? But for a newer agent, every deal is, we want to get every deal we can. When in our journey should we start to really narrow it down and be in that position where we even can?
From day one. Day one, you just still take the other deals, but you start building that avatar from day one. You start getting very focused on that avatar because you got to learn something, right? So maybe your avatar is a developer, or you have a brother that's a developer builder, right? Well, you start going and diving in and learning the zoning codes and getting really good at that, but you're still going to take deals from, first-time home buyers. You're still going to take a deal from first-time home seller or whatever. You're going to take those deals, but you're going to spend nights and weekends getting very specific and building your avatar. You take what you can get, but you know where you want to be, you know where you want to go, and you start building marketing and start saving your money to start spending on that avatar to start building that out so you can get out of this stuff. Because that stuff's going to make you run, and especially you guys as traffic, that's going to make you run from Tacoma to Everett to, all these things where I want to be in 2 zip codes, right? And maybe in a little bit bigger in that sense, but I want to be in this avatar so I can control those things. Because if you can't control that, then you're going to hit a ceiling, and it's going to be a very low ceiling. Does that make sense? So yeah, take it, and then you start learning, and you might change your avatar. You might have like a listing, go and with these people that are step-out home buyer listing, right? but you're like, man, I went working with this first time home buyer, man, I really connected with these guys. I really like that demographic. It created an emotional feeling in you, because if it creates an emotional feeling in you, then all of a sudden that shows to other people, because then you do have passion about it. That's why real estate's so freaking amazing, because there's 100 different things you can do in it. If you don't like one, like I hate flipping houses, so we're not doing flips really anymore. It's just, yeah. But we still do flips though, right? Until we can get out of it, we still do flips.
Hey, Kevin, well, I'll just say on our side, Elliot, like, Caliber, we have an avatar that we it's kind of based on our core values. People hungry, do the right thing always, people looking for profits. And generally speaking, obviously all shapes and sizes, ages, backgrounds, geography, but at the end of the day, it's like, could we see ourselves hanging out with these people? If we're not looking, are you doing the right thing? Are you collaborating with them? So we picked an avatar for who we choose to have as a Caliber agent. So when you guys are all together, oh yeah, we love being together. Well, there's a reason for that, right? And we're so intentional about not poisoning that, this pond that we have.
Yeah, and that's why they made Ian move to Texas, because he was just bad for the cult. They need to get him out of here. So, but if you had an agent that wasn't fitting that culture, Zach, you don't need that agent. You would fire him. Same as you would fire a client if it's not your culture.
Well, I mean, I've sat down with plenty of agents that have performed really, really well, do a lot of transactions. I'm like, this just isn't a good fit.
Yeah. Because you won't sacrifice, like, what's your thing number 2, to do the right thing always. You won't sacrifice your integrity for your company's integrity for any amount of money. And you'll make more money because of it. That's the great thing about it.
Yeah, longevity, make more money, sure. Well, cool. This has been great. Any other questions for Elliot?
Hi. I actually talked to quite a few tech people, and I asked them to invest in real estate, and they said they prefer investment in stock. What is your advice for that?
There's no advice you can give people. That's the deal. Is people are gonna invest in the thing that they think's hot. Right now, the news is calling for a housing crash, right? So people see that they're calling for everything crash actually. But the problem is, one, the stock is because they don't have enough money. I've talked to guys from Amazon. They have maybe $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. So like they can't like actually invest with me a lot of the times because they don't have enough money. So unless you have a syndication or a group, like I know Greg is actually working on this, and this is an option. Greg at N4 Homes, where he's gonna put like a fund together that people, because he has a lot of people that have that type of capital that they can put it in there and they can get a return on that. But they don't have enough money, and they think they can make quicker, better, faster returns in the stock market. So you just have to find a way to educate them. Again, you're not trying to tell them because you need them to invest. You're trying to say, hey, if I actually give a shit about you, here's what you're doing. Like, but if you're not educated on stock investing, which I am very up to date on all that stuff, and you're not very well educated on real estate investing, you can't give them the solid advice. They're not going to listen to you. And then do you have good options for them on the investing side? Do you have options? Just asking people doesn't mean anything, like, until you have an opportunity. Like, hey, I know this guy, Greg, which you could then add value to Greg and say, hey, Greg, I have 10 tech people that might invest $200,000 each into a fund. Can they get a return? What kind of return could they get? Or would you put that? And then all of a sudden you start talking to people and like, hey, I have a fund that we're putting together. Like, if you guys are interested for this, here's a guy that I know, and then you can add value, and you can, you gotta be careful on how you make money on that. I'm not a lawyer. You would talk to an SEC lawyer or something like that. Is that Zach? You find a way to make it like where it's friends and family, so you're not actually raising capital, so don't talk about it. But like, yeah, here's a guy, and you introduce him. If I'm that guy, I might kick you back some money. So. But that would be you adding value to Greg, which maybe then all of a sudden, maybe he has a listing. I don't know.
Okay, thanks.
And I would always just ask, so what is it about stock investing that interests you so much? Why choose that route? Just, like I think I was telling you, just always peel back the layer of the onion just a little bit more.
Okay.
And hopefully that's easy to do if they're already friends. If not, then be friends. Cool.
Yes, that's good advice. That is the good advice too. Ask them, start asking questions why. Have the understanding when they start asking that you have to have a rebuttal, but I didn't say that. So great. You have to ask the questions first to be able to give the rebuttal. So We're a great team, Zach. This is why we should be partners.
Exactly. That's why we are partners.
Yeah.
Such a great time talking. Okay, well, I appreciate you taking the time out, man, to share this this great knowledge, because this, we didn't pay you anything, so thank you for that. You didn't make anything except for maybe some more footage on your podcast. So I appreciate you.
You know what I'm pretty disappointed at, though?
That.
Ian didn't stay on for the whole time.
Oh, boo, tracker.
Oh, honestly, like, I'm gonna throw him a bone. It could be the area that he's in. Sometimes the reception's a little choppy out there. I'm sure. Pick his eyes, not time with Elliot.
I'm just saying.
Okay, this is recorded. I'm gonna make sure and show him this later. So, but hey, thanks again, man, for taking time out, and we'll chat again soon.
All right.
And, look up this podcast, guys. Listen the whole time. What's that? No. So Tri-Cities is your area.
Yeah, Tri-Cities, and we have stuff in Vancouver as well. Washington.
East. Yeah. It's a 2-hour drive. And you're
Three.
driving, like, trust me, there's like very few dull moments.
Yeah, you guys tell your people to stop coming over here. You guys are sending all these people over here trying to screw it all up.
Send them back.
Yeah. They don't want nobody from the east side wants to go back over there unless they have to get a job over there. Too much rain, too much traffic.
Exactly. And other stuff. So
No, that's not other stuff.
You did good. You did good, man. Very easy. Great job.
See you guys.
All right, have a good one.
Yep.